Seems like Mike McCarthy really has a lot of fun talking to Aaron Rodgers. I see a tweet put out there by Caballi that says that McCarthy said during the media availability that just wrapped up, he talked to Aaron Rodgers last night. Caballi says that those two talk more than him and his wife talk.
Yeah, they do talk a lot, pretty constantly. It seems like they talk a lot about old memories of what happened during their days in Green Bay. That was
reminiscing.
McCarthy told us. Yeah, talking about specific plays, and I think they nerd out about, obscurely deep football stuff, like the science and stuff behind it, real football guys. And then they talk about personal stuff as well, and I'm sure McCarthy's going to be like, I bet you didn't hit these spots in Pittsburgh, and, all that. And it does seem like that they have a really good stream of conversation going here, and that's very regular. So it seems like, McCarthy probably has a pretty good pulse on this situation. I would say that's pretty fair.
Biggest takeaway from McCarthy's media availability today was?
It's kind of interesting. We were all over the place. We asked about a bunch of questions. We had two sessions with him because the local had one with him yesterday too. And we kind of talked a lot yesterday more about quarterbacks and his evaluation process. I will say, I think the biggest thing I learned this week about McCarthy was how he evaluated the quarterback position. The physical tools matter more than anything. Big size, big hands, long arms. You need to play in the cold. You need to play in the winter of Pittsburgh. Like, that is a big thing. It's going to be different than what you saw in Dallas. I do think one of the big takeaways from the press conference today, and it really has been, all throughout the offseason, is I just do not think this Will Howard stuff is smoke. I think they're completely real about it. He praised Will Howard effusively today, and Mike the Favorite did a great job asking him, what does he need to improve upon? And he said winning from the pocket and, processing defenses and all of that, the hardest part of playing the position. But he's got all the physical traits, and he wouldn't have been a sixth-round pick if McCarthy were there. I think that's one of these takeaways where just around the quarterback position is, they clearly think that they have a very good developmental prospect on their hands already, Will Howard. But also, I think they're going to look for another one. McCarthy basically said as much yesterday that he would be very interested probably in a mid-round quarterback. So I think you're probably going to see a pretty well-rounded quarterback room. If it's Aaron Rodgers coming back, you're probably still going to see him draft another one in the middle round somewhere.
Well, doesn't that just completely contradict what he just said, Nick? Like, if he believes in Will Howard so much and he thinks he's this great quarterback that might be the answer to for the Steelers' future, why would they draft a quarterback in the middle rounds that, at least from maybe a narrative perspective or people that are even in the draft room might say, hey, we drafted this guy in the third round or the fourth round. We're not going to have him start or play more over the guy that is maybe the third string quarterback right now and the one that was drafted in the sixth round? That doesn't make much sense to me.
So here's the thing. I think that Mike McCarthy and really Omar Khan believe in the theory of throwing as many resources at a position of weakness as possible. And so you get more bites at the apple. It's just kind of, if you have a higher quantity, you have a bigger chance of potentially just hitting on one of them. That's kind of where I think they're coming from here is, why have one when you can have two? And really what I think people maybe aren't thinking enough about is Mason Rudolph vulnerable? I think that's maybe one of the takeaways here is, when we talk about quarterbacks this year, it's all about Rodgers, it's all about Will Howard, it's all about, the prospects in the 26th class. We don't hear a lot of Mason Rudolph talk, and I understand, we know what he is, but I do think there's a real possibility they draft someone in the middle rounds and you're back to Howard in the rookie. Like, I think that is a wholly likely scenario that could absolutely happen. Rudolph's going to have to battle for his spot. And so that's one thing to think about. It's not like he's a roster lock. And so what I think that they're kind of hitting at here is, if you can develop two guys and you like two guys in there, maybe one of them hits, maybe neither of them do. But we have 12, they have 12 draft picks. And I think that's one thing that they talk a lot about this week is there are so many draft picks that they have that they can hit on so many different needs. And quarterback's one of them. I think that they feel like they would be remiss to not take a dart throw on somebody with one of those picks. And so that's kind of the philosophy is the quantity of picks you have, but also having more bites at the apple at that position gets you a higher likelihood of fixing that position or finding someone that maybe can slot in there. So that's always something to think about. Good teams, the 49ers did this a lot, before Brock Purdy came along, where they would just take guys late in the draft, the quarterback, and Purdy hit. It's happened sometimes. And so I think that's a philosophy that they've kind of taken on. So that's why they would draft him.